Hello everyone, my name is Anshul. I'm a corporate trainee at Madrid Software Training Solutions. So today's topic is statistics for data science. And today we'll be discussing why statistics is important for data science. And by the end of this video, you will have a brief introduction about what topics you should know before you go for data science. So what is the agenda for today? We will first see what is data science, and then we will learn what is probability and what is statistics, and then we'll eventually deep dive into the statistical concepts for data science. So what is data science? Data science is a multidisciplinary field which combines computer science, statistics, and mathematics so that we can extract information with the help of arithmetic and measurements to separate significant experiences from the information. So basically data science is a field of is a study of data so that we can study the data with the help of mathematical applications, statistical applications, and machine learning applications, and then taking out useful information from the data. In order to do that, we use AI calculations on numbers, text, pictures, or machine learning calculations, say algorithms on numbers, text, pictures, videos, sound, and more to create computerized reasoning frameworks to perform undertakings that commonly require human knowledge. So, data science is all about problem solving. If you want to be a data scientist and you have the curiosity to solve problems, you ask questions at every single aspect, then you can be a data scientist. You have the potential to be a data scientist. So what is probability? Then probability is basically the study of chances, the study of probable events. The meaning of probability is basically the extent to which something is likely to happen. Probability tells you what are the percentage of you catching a bus at 7 a.m. in the morning. Probability can tell you what is the probability of winning you a match or losing you a match. This is the basic probability theory, which is also used in probability distributions, where you will learn the possibility of outcomes for random experiment. So basically, suppose you throw a die, that is your basically a random experiment. And what are the outcomes? Outcomes are basically the numbers or the events or the results you get after performing an experiment. You throw a die, that is your experiment. The outcomes is either a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, any of those. And the probability of each of those number is 1 by 6. But how do we get the probability? So basically, no matter if you throw a single die, you will eventually get one number when the die stops rolling. So you get only one number out of 6, and hence the probability is 1 by 6. To find the probability of a single event to occur, first we should know the total number of possible outcomes. In the case of a die, the possible number of outcomes is 6. That is the basic of probability. And then we have statistics. Statistics is basically probability and statistics are combined actually, somewhat combined, because probability is there in mathematics as well, and probability is there in statistics as well. So basically, probability, mathematics, and statistics, they all three are combined. Statistics is the science concerned with developing and studying methods for collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and presenting empirical data. Or in layman language, if you have a data and if you want to collect information, you want to extract information, you want to analyze it, and based on the analysis from the data, you want to predict something, you want to make a report. So that is where statistics needed. In research, statistics finds applicability in virtual all scientific fields and research questions in the various scientific fields, motivate the development of new statistical methods and theory. Statistics is used in research purposes when you want in PhD purposes when you basically want to research on something, you want to analyze new things. Statistics is a very big deal for researchers. Then, going into the statistical concepts for data science. So basically, the basic concepts for data science, starting with this sampling of the data. So there basically are four types of sampling. One is simple random sampling, then one is systematic sampling, and then stratified sampling, and then cluster sampling. So as you can see in the simple random sampling, the top left corner, so simple random sampling is basically if you have if you have number of people, suppose you have 20 number of people and you're picking any person randomly. So that is simple random sampling. You pick a person and then you pick another person and then you pick another person. So that is what simple random sampling. And in simple random sampling, the probability of each element is equally likely. For example, if you are picking one person out of 10, so the probability of one person is 1 by 10. And hence, due to the equally likely part, the probability of each person is 1 by 10. Then we have systematic sampling. Unlike random sampling, in systematic sampling we create a system, so basically a sequence. For example, if I have 20 people and I make them stand in a row, I'm going to select every third person. That is what my system is. From the left, I'm going to pick a third person, and then the third person, and then the third person. And that's how I'm going to select elements from the systematic sampling. So that is what is all about systematic sampling. And then stratified sampling. In stratified sampling, as you can see in the bottom left, there are two groups, that is the light blue and the dark blue. So basically in stratified sampling, we basically create groups which share same characteristics. So what I really mean that the groups are sharing different characteristics among them, but the elements in them are sharing same characteristics. So in the right hand side of the stratified sample, as you can see, there are blue people, that means they share same characteristics, and the left hand side, that is light blue. So basically they share same characteristics. And out of these two groups, then we select people. So that is what stratified sampling is. And then cluster sampling. Cluster sampling, people often get confused between cluster sampling and stratified sampling. But in cluster sampling, we create random clusters without any systematic, without any sequence. We just create clusters so that we can have heterogeneous clusters. So basically, in those clusters, you can have people with the same characteristics by random chance, and you can have people with different characteristics as well. And then we pick those clusters, as you can see in the bottom right. So, and then statistical concepts again, that is again the more sampling part, that is convenience sampling. So as the name suggests, the convenience sampling, suppose you're basically performing a data collection method. So according to you, you're going to define methods according to your needs, according to your convenience. If the data points, if the data points is not readily available, you're basically going to make questions that are more easily answered by the people. And voluntary response sample, so basically voluntary response sample, so just like COVID vaccine, so people are volunteering themselves so that they can help the society in order to get the vaccine earlier. So that is, you can also consider as voluntary response sample. And then we have purpose sampling. So basically, if I have a purpose, say I want to know who all people are interested in masters in data science. So ultimately, I have a purpose that I want to know the ratio of the people who are just interested in the master of data science. So ultimately, I will target those people only. That is my purpose. That is what purpose sampling is. And then we have snowball sampling. Snowball sampling also refers to as reference sampling. Suppose I refer a plan to someone, and that someone refers to a plan to a third person, and that third person refers that plan to two more other person. So that is what snowball sample is. And then what are the data types? You need to when you are in the field of data science, you need to understand the data types, because data can be in lot of forms. So majorly, the data types are categorical and numerical. In categorical also there are two categories, one is nominal and one is ordinal. So nominal categorical variables are those variables which are categorical but they do not possess any order. For example, gender. It's either female or female, and there is no order to it. You cannot specify which one is superior. And but unlike normal in ordinal variable, in ordinal categorical variable, you have categories which can be categorized according to the order. For example, the categories of education: school, then college, then graduation, then post graduation, then PhD. You can order them as low to high. For example, school will be the upmost as it is the lowest qualification, then graduation, then post graduation, and then PhD. So that is what an example of ordinal categorical variable. Then we comes to numerical data types. Numerical data types are of two types: interval and ratio, or basically discrete. When we talk about interval, interval means a continuous variable. A continuous variable is what we can actually measure, but we cannot count. For example, the PM particles, the air pollutant particles, it expressed in parts per million, that is ppm. We cannot measure it. We can measure it, sorry, but we cannot count it. For example, the age is also a continuous variable. And then we comes to ratio, aka discrete variables. Discrete variables are basically we can count but we cannot measure them. So for example, the categories, it's either business or personal, or basically the categories or the number of cylinders, right? You cannot measure cylinders but you can count them. The number of cylinders in a car. So, coming to descriptive statistic. Descriptive statistics is a brief descriptive coefficients that summarize a given data set, which can either represent representation of the entire data or sample of a population. In a simple layman language, descriptive statistics is simply means describing your data in the form of statistical measures like the central tendencies, mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, skewness, kurtosis, maximum and minimum variables. I again repeat, descriptive statistics is all about describing our data in some statistical measures like mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, minimum and maximum variables, kurtosis and skewness. Then we have inferential statistics. Basically, there are two types of statistics. One descriptive, which I just told you, and then was inferential statistics. Inferential statistics is basically studying the data and making inferences about the population. So basically, studying the data, inferences is basically the making predictions on the basis of data, and making predictions for the population on the basis of the small sample. Then we have hypothesis testing. In inferential statistics, there is hypothesis testing, which you really need to know to perform inferential statistics. Then the most important distribution, there are a lot of probability distributions in statistics, like uniform distribution is also called rectangular distribution, gamma distribution, chi-square distribution, binomial distribution. But the most important among all is the normal distribution. And the most important continuous distribution is the standard normal distribution. Standard normal distribution or normal distribution or Gaussian distribution, they all mean the same. It is so important that random variable has its own special letter Z. So it has a variable Z which denotes the normal distribution, and the area under the normal distribution, as you can see the top figures on the left and right, that is how a normal distribution looks like, and it's symmetric. If you see on the right hand side, the middle line represents the mean and the median, and that is why it is symmetrical on the left hand side and the right hand side. It is also known as the bell shaped curve, and the area under the curve is always 1 because it is a probability distribution and probabilities can never be greater than 1. more about statistics, and these are some topics basically I've discussed which you really need to know about. And the more on statistics is like the measurement of sampling, how you do, as I mentioned, the sampling, but how you actually measure the sampling. And then when you are doing the sampling of the data, you possess some errors, you actually commit some errors. So how do you actually calculate those errors? And then you have data collection method. As a data scientist, you need to know mm, the basics and the most efficient ways to collect data. Then we have z score, that is standard score, that is related to the normal distribution. Empirical rule, that is related to the normal distribution. Normality testing, that is also related to the normal distribution. That is why I was saying normal distribution is the most important distribution related to among all. Skewness and kudos. Skewness refers to the symmetry of the distribution, how symmetrical your data is if you visualize it. Kurtosis tells you how many outliers your data possess. Outliers basically the values which does have high values as compared to any other values. Then we have measure of distance. How do you actually measure the distance between the data points? It can be Euclidean, it can be Manhattan, it can be Minkowski distance. So, and more topics and the more hypothesis test, you should also know about the parametric test and the non-parametric test. Parametric test like the t-test, one sample, two sample, and non-parametric test like chi-square, Mann-Whitney, Kruskal-Wallis, and etc. So these are the statistical tests you need to know about in order to be in order to go into a field to a data scientist. I'm not saying that if you do not know these, you cannot be a data scientist. It's just that if you're planning to go into data science, you should know about statistics and these topics because this will help you to understand your data and to help your company and to perform well in the field of data science. And then, as I mentioned, there are a lot of probability distributions, such as uniform distribution, binomial distribution, normal distribution being the most important one, chi-square distribution, etc. So this is it for today. I hope you have understood the brief introduction why statistics is important for data science. And you can always contact at info@Madrid Software Training Solutions. Um, we provide courses on data analytics, data science with Python, machine learning, and Tableau, business analytics, and much more. So you're most welcome to contact to us. Thank you so much.